Hey, good morning, everybody. I wanted to talk to y'all for a minute about addiction because I'm sure a lot of people don't really understand it. Just thought of as irresponsibility strictly, and that is a part of it, yes, but that is not the whole deal. See, the thing is with addiction, addicts are trying to treat something, trying to treat a mental illness or some other uncomfortable thing. And it's not being treated effectively, of course, because there's no treatment plan, there's been no diagnosis, there's been no recommended course of treatment. Now, that some cases can be used, the past can be used as a guide to the present when it comes to mental health issues, for example, whereas like medical marijuana helps with anxiety, depression, PTSD, pain, things like this. Then that's where it gets a little dicey for an addict, is because being on the right side of medicating and the wrong, and not self-medicating is very difficult. Because as an addict, I can personally say, we still want to treat our problems, and even when they don't really seem to exist anymore. We're creatures of habit. Human beings are creatures of habit, period, but we as addicts, when we find something that helps us escape that bad feeling, or whatever the problem may be, it becomes mentally programmed that that is the way out of the problem. So it's not like every time we think, oh, well, I'll just go do this and I'll feel better. That's how it started out, but it ends up being an automatic process. And that's one of the hardest things about breaking addiction, is that it's all automated. It's programmed into the person's brain, this routine of treating things a certain way, of doing things a certain way, of dealing with people in a certain way. And it's just burned in. I don't know if you've ever heard, it takes 30 days to make a habit and 30 days to break a habit. That's true. If you diligently try to recognize when you're doing something, then you can recognize what's causing it. Once you recognize what's causing it, you can diffuse the problem before it happens. And that's part of the thing. You have to reprogram your thoughts. That's why recovery programs and rehabs have steps and things like this to help teach you how to be functional again, how to think functionally. It's not easy. Everything can be going great for an addict. I've seen people with 50, 48, 50 years, been great that whole time, not clean time, by the way, I mean, and then just one day, something hits you just wrong, and that part of your brain that's programmed to self-medicate starts to go off again. There's no telling what a trigger is. Some triggers are very obvious, If you drive past a bar and you get thirsty for a beer every time you see one, well, you might be an alcoholic. If you see somebody wasted on opium on TV and want to go out and find a drug dealer, you might be an addict. If every time you think about celebrating something, you've got a beer, a joint, or whatever in your hand, you might be an addict. But, don't judge people. Because addicts are people too, people with sickness. And it's more than simply irresponsibility, I would urge you to do a little research. Maybe you've known some addicts, maybe you've got some in your family, and you'd like to understand them a little better. There's tons and tons of good research out there. It's just about asking the right questions from Google. I mean, Google can be your friend. It's like the encyclopedia of the old school, except you ask it almost anything and it'll tell you something. So just keep in mind a lot of that is also user content. When dealing with medical issues, always deal with medical sites. But, I hope I've helped you understand addiction a little better. I know I have not covered a lot, but I've covered the major stuff. Just try to remember, if you're trying to help somebody to want them to be clean or, to change their lives, it's better to be an example than it is to just be a confrontation. Addicts run from confrontation. It's just the way things are, fight or flight. And flight is usually the path. As part of the, self-medicating. We're running from problems instead of treating them. But have some compassion for addicts. We're a mess. We've been through stuff that nobody else understands, except maybe another addict, and only they understand their personal trauma. They don't understand everybody else's trauma to the same degree. Each person experiences things differently and on different levels. So, anyway, hope I've helped you understand it a little better, and try to remember to be kind to an addict, but don't be an enabler. It's one thing to buy somebody a pack of cigarettes once or whatever. If they're an addict and you constantly keep giving them money, well, I can tell you from first-hand experience, I'll keep taking the money, you keep giving it, and I'll start spending my own irresponsibly and using yours for bills, and then I'll start spending both irresponsibly and going to the pawn shop and so on and so forth. Just remember, addicts are people too. Peace.